Good afternoon. I'm Jackie Linton, Director of the Center of Excellence, responsible for PhillyStat, the city's performance management tool. This afternoon, we have a timely topic discussion regarding District Council 33 labor update. This meeting is hosted by the mayor. I'd like for the participants to introduce themselves, starting at my right, and when all introductions are complete, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Leonard. I'm the Chief of Staff in the City's Law Department.
Good afternoon, Elizabeth Mattioni. I'm the Chair of Litigation in the City Law Department.
Good afternoon, I'm Albert Tatoya. I'm the Director of Human Resources, City of Philadelphia.
Rob Dubo, Finance Director.
Renee Vargas, Deputy Director, Labor Relations.
I'm Anna Adams. I'm Chief of Staff to the Finance Director.
Kathy Pastor, First Deputy Director of Finance.
Rebecca Reinhardt, Budget Director.
Adela Bates, CIO.
Suzanne B. Miller, First Deputy Chief of Staff in the Mayor's Office.
Everett Gillison, Chief of Staff to the Mayor.
Mayor Nutter.
Rich Negrin, Deputy Mayor of Administration and Coordination and Managing Director.
Desiree Peter Campbell, Director of Communications for the Mayor and City Representative.
Mayor Nutter.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you all for being here. This is a very timely update to circumstance that's been going on for some time in the city. We're trying to get all of our municipal unions under multi-year contracts. We've been in negotiations for 4 years now with at least 3 of our unions, District Council 33, District Council 47, and Local 22. The firefighters process is through an arbitration process, but District Councils 33 and 47 go through a collective bargaining process that we have been following. It's been a long time that this has been going on. We're trying to get some clarity with regard to how we move forward, and I thought it important that we walk through what are the actual proposals, what is it that we're trying to accomplish, why do we need certain reforms, and be clear on the fact that we also have raises proposed for our employees because we value their service. They work very, very hard under difficult circumstances and the many challenges that our city government faces, and certainly work and interface with the public on a regular basis. And so I am very, very proud of our public employees. Much is said out in the public sphere, if you will. I am very, very much pro public employees. I'm pro our unions. I try to support them as much as I can. But also I have to be mindful that we have 1.5 million people here in the city of Philadelphia. The taxpayers have to pay for whatever we agree to. And so I have to be mindful of the public dollars as well. And so that's a fine balance, trying to be fair to our public employees, but also fair to the taxpayers at the same time. And making these tough decisions, it is not because I don't value their service, but I do value the integrity of our finances and making sure that we value their work at the same time. So you'll hear a lot of things out in the public with regard to how I view our public employees, but you can hear directly from me. I respect them, I support them, I want to ensure that they are able to take care of themselves and their families, and also we are stewards of the public tax dollars, and we have to balance those interests. So why don't we talk about what are the major issues that comprise the contract proposal that we have on the table, specifically with District Council 33, but pretty much the same kinds of terms that we've also proposed for District Council 47. And Renee, why don't you give us an overview of what some of those elements are?
Well, like you said, Mr. Mayor, it's been a long road. It's almost 4 years since we've had a contract with District Council 33. At this point in time, for us, we have 3 major points that we're dealing with, that we're trying to work with the union with. That would be in the area of pension, overtime, and furloughs. In the area of pension, we are trying to get all new employees that come in under District Council 33 in a new plan, Plan 10. We're also trying to get a higher contribution rate for District Council 33 employees.
Current members.
Current members. And in the area of furloughs, we believe that furloughs are a better avenue than laying people off. And we are proposing up to 15 days of furlough in a contract.
Now, tell me, why don't you explain maybe a little bit, what is a furlough? How is that different than a layoff? Why is that better? How many would we use? Under what circumstances would we even use that particular tool?
Al, you want to take that? I think that would be better under Al. Al?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, if you recall back in 2008 when the recession hit, we were charged with laying off employees, and we struggled with minimizing the number of employees we laid off. I think when you look at the city of Philadelphia compared to other cities, we were quite successful in that we limited the number of layoffs to less than 200 employees. But had we had the ability to furlough the workforce for a day or so, quite possibly we would not have had to lay off any of those employees. Most of those employees never came back, so they were permanently let go from the city.
They lost their job.
They lost their job, they lost their benefits, and in a time when it was
Just because of
quite-
the economic situation, not due to any
Pure-
fault of their own.
Purely it was the economics of 2008 and 2009.
And even more people were facing the potential layoffs had we not been able to get sort of a reprieve from Harrisburg, if I'm recalling correctly.
At one point, we were looking at 3,000, potential to lay off 3,000 employees.
We actually had the forms ready to go.
That's right. They were ready to be mailed out.
And at the moment, in terms of flexibility, or options rather, to lessen significant costs in the government, employees represent between salary and benefits probably 60+% of the overall costs of the city government. And so if we had to reduce our employee costs, the only real tool we have available to us at the moment is a layoff. Is
That's
that correct?
correct.
Right. So what's the difference between a layoff and a furlough?
So a furlough would minimize the pain, but spread it out over a larger group of employees. So you're aware of how the federal government at times have had to shut down for a day or two. Surely employees are affected by that, but to a much lesser extent than if they're permanently furloughed. So
Well,
what
you
we
just come
would
back to
do-
work right after the furlough, right?
Exactly. So what we would do, should we ever have to use these furloughs as a tool, is furlough a portion of the workforce for up to 15 days. I don't foresee that actually occurring, but up to 15 days. But people would come back and they would have jobs, and their benefits wouldn't be affected. Their pensions would have a minimal effect.
And when you say up to 15 days, I mean, you're not talking about 15 days in a row. This is more than likely spread out
It would be
throughout the
spread
course
out.
of the year?
That's correct. Again, depending upon your economic needs.
And furloughs were used again in, was it '09 or '10 among exempt employees, is that correct?
There were.
We did have, we
Nine.
were able to furlough exempt employees, so all exempt employees took what was equivalent to 5 days of furloughs.
Each year.
Each year.
Right. But it's not a break in service.
It's not a break in service.
And it has no impact on your health care or any other elements of being a public employee.
That's correct.
So you're working one day, say the next day is a furlough day, you don't come to work, you don't get paid for that day, and then you come back the following day and continue on with your job.
That's correct.
In a layoff situation, unfortunately, the more likely scenario is you come to work one day, you get laid off, you don't come back.
No, you don't.
Much more devastating to the employee, and also disruptive to the workforce. Layoffs go across a variety of places and affect a large number of people in different ways.
And tend to be permanent.
Right.
Now, the other thing to point out is that under our proposals and with the 5-year plan, we don't have any furloughs factored in on the 5-year plan. This is...
You're not showing any savings in the 5-year plan from utilizing furloughs.
No, this is just a safety net should an economic crisis hit again.
And under what circumstances do you think we would be in a position to possibly have to utilize this particular tool?
If you looked at what happened to us in 2009, where in the middle of the year there was a sudden downturn, we saw tax revenues really fall off the cliff. This would be a good tool, rather than going to layoffs, to help us reduce our costs and to stay in balance.
And you can't use furloughs for disciplinary reasons or for just, you don't like somebody so they get a furlough day. It's usually not one individual employee. More than likely it would be a group of employees or a unit or, various categories. So it's not a punitive measure. It's a way of managing the workforce and saving money, while at the same time the person still keeps their job.
Managing when you have severe budget problems. And that's when we envision using this, when we have really bad budget problems, not for other reasons.
Right, like as if the finance director had to declare a deficit or something like that.
And the proposals require both approval by the finance director and by the director of human resources. So those are the safeguards against an arbitrary use of furloughs. I think the other point to make is that when we lay off employees, services obviously have to be cut. When you furlough an employee, your services can continue. So it also has a positive effect on the services that you provide to the public.
And Al, the right to furlough in and of itself is not something new to the city. You already have that right with the police contract.
That's correct.
And you have not used it?
We have we have not used it. And that right was given to us through interest arbitration. So obviously, the arbitration panel understood the need and awarded us that right.
The question was brought to us at the negotiations when we've sat down with 33 regarding, can this be a punitive measure? And we've re-emphasized this is not about discipline. This isn't about, your supervisor not liking you and you're laid off, furloughed the next day. Right. This is simply an economic tool that we, would rather use.
Let's go into some of the other elements of the proposal that we have on the table.
Are there salary increases?
Yes, there are two salary increases. A 2.5% increase that would be effective within 30 days of reaching agreement, and then an additional 2% the following January. Because as the mayor said,
January 1st, 2014.
Yes, we value our employees. We think they should have raises. Those who are eligible for increment increases would also see them. So there are increases in the proposal. Of course, in exchange for those increases, we want the kind of reforms that Renee was talking about, because those are important for the long-term health of the city.
So let's talk about the step and longevity increases, effective 30 days after any agreement takes effect. Walk me through, what's a step or a longevity increase? What does that mean?
So we have 1,000 job classifications in the civil service plan. Each job is assigned a pay range. Pay ranges have anywhere from 4 to 5 steps. So typically an employee comes in at the first step, and after a year of satisfactory performance, would move to the second step, to the third step, to the fourth step.
And those are basically automatic pay increases?
Based on satisfactory performance and an extra year in grade. Those steps and longevities have been frozen since 2009. Longevity is just a small increase in your base salary based on your total years of service.
Do they come at like a 5-year anniversary, 10-year? Okay, so like that.
15-year interval, right. So because steps have been frozen, and because our pay structure is set up so that employees come in at a lower rate, and as they gain experience, they progress up that grade. Some employees have been frozen at that first step for the last 4 years.
Right.
So when we unfreeze the steps, there are employees who will see a significant increase in their base salary because they may go from step 1 to step 4 in the pay range.
And how would that happen? Why does that happen? You calculate if there had been a contract in place where they would have ended up?
That's correct.
Okay,
So
so
we would
explain
figure
that.
out-
Walk me through that.
So we would figure out, had the steps not been frozen, and the longevity's not been frozen, where would each individual be when the freeze is lifted? We would then move them to that pay step, add on the longevity, and take the longevity off for a second. The pay raises that we're talking about would then be placed on top of that
Top of the
adjustment.
step?
The new salary.
The new
And
salary?
So you go to the
on
step.
top of the step, not the
Right.
longevity.
Okay.
So you go to the step, whatever your next step is, and it could be a couple steps up.
Right.
You go to that step, and then the 2.5 is 2.5% increase is calculated on the new salary?
That's correct. So we know that there will be employees who see a significant increase in pay once we unfreeze the steps and
That's-
apply the 2.5% increase that would take effect 30 days after the agreement.
So you're talking about, I mean, that could be thousands of dollars.
Yes. That would not be
Immediately.
unusual, yes,
Plus the pay increase.
plus the pay increase.
All right. Let's talk about some of the reforms that are critical. Why don't we, let's start with pensions, and Rob, if you could give us a quick overview of kind of the current state of the pension fund. Where is it now? Where was it before? Why are we where we are? And what are we trying to do going forward?
So the slide 5, which is up on the screen now, really gives a good picture of what's happened to the pension fund. So we're in the unfortunate position of the fund has gotten less healthy and has cost us increasingly more. So the key measure of the health of a pension fund is its funding percent, which really is kind of an indication of its ability to pay benefits in the future without additional support. So the higher the number, the better. This graph shows that back 10 to 15 years ago, we were up in the upper 70s, which is it's pretty much where you would like to be, at least in the upper 70s. By 2009, we had gone down, that's the middle of the fiscal crisis, we'd gone all the way down to 45%. That's a very low funding percent, really one of the lowest in the country. It's a sign that the fund is not healthy. What happens in terms of making sure that pensioners get their benefits despite that funding level, the city has to put more and more money into the pension fund to make sure that it has enough assets to pay all the benefits.
And that money comes from where?
Comes from city's general fund, water fund, aviation fund, primarily from the general fund, so primarily from taxes.
Which we use to provide services.
Which we use to provide services, and there's another graph I'll show in a minute that shows what that's meant in terms of the amount we have for services.
Provide services and pay employee salaries.
Yes. Yeah.
All that comes out of the general fund.
Right. So, see, if you go to the next slide, it shows the dollar increase in pension payments. You see back in fiscal year 04, 10 years ago, our costs were $229 million. By FY 13, 14, 15, we're over $600 million. And people will look at that and say, well, okay, but wasn't the rest of your budget growing too? The two slides to kind of show what that means. If you look at page 8, back in 2004, pensions were 7% of our budget. So 7 cents out of every dollar went to pensions. We had 93 cents for everything else. Then next year's budget, 16 cents out of every dollar goes to pensions. So more than twice as much goes to pensions. It means that there's less available for everything else.
So when all the departments or when all of the persons that get money out of the general fund, when everyone is looking to say, why can't the budget be increased, part of the reason is this squeeze that we're hearing from pensions. I mean, in essence, that's a big source of the problem.
Right, we have a lot less flexibility in our budget than we did 10 years ago because more and more money is going to pensions. And you asked also kind of what's happened. There are a few reasons why costs have grown so much. One is the two primary ways the pension fund gets its money are from the city, tax dollars, and from investments. When the market has a historically bad year, like it did in '09, instead of making money, it loses money. And even though the pension fund did better than other similar pension funds, it lost a fair amount of money. We have to make up for that. Mm-hmm. The other thing, there's a structural problem in that we have more people receiving benefits than current employees.
Right. We have more retirees than we have current employees.
Right.
Paying into the system.
Right. So that puts a lot of strain on your system. You have more people who are getting benefits than you have paying in to support it.
So what's the proposal to get us out of the changes? What do we have to do?
We have a proposal that would change benefit level. And while our current benefit level may not be that out of whack with other public sector pension funds, it's very different from private sector funds, and it's also clearly not working. The costs are going up, squeezing everything out, and it's not healthy. So we've proposed a couple of things. One, we've proposed, take one step back. The way our plan works now, every pension recipient receives a guaranteed amount each year. So no matter what happens with the market, for example, we're going to give you the same benefit every year. So the entire risk of anything that goes wrong is on the taxpayers.
Right.
Our proposal would be to put new employees in a plan that combines that, what's called defined benefit plan, at a lower level of benefit with basically a 401k plan. It's called in the pension world a defined contribution plan. So for a portion of it, you get that guaranteed benefit, but there'd also be a portion where you would take money and the individual with counseling from the pension fund would invest, and whatever they earned is what they would get. So it shifts some of that earnings risk from taxpayer to the pensioner, while also guaranteeing that the pensioner gets a benefit each year.
But let me make sure that I'm understanding correctly, because in the private sector, it's traditionally all just about 401k style.
That's right.
So the risk is totally on the individual.
That's right.
We're actually talking about a combination plan.
That's right.
You get a smaller, and I don't know, how much is the difference between the one, the combination of plans to the other? What defined rate do you get? What's the difference?
So in the current rate, depending on the plan, you have a multiplier that can be 2% for a certain number of years of service and 2.2% beyond that times your years of service. The new plan would have for a non-uniform, would have a 1.25% multiplier.
But then you get the opportunity to invest and take the risk of getting and making
To supplement with
that
the
that
401k.
defined. Okay.
And is a portion of that portable?
Yes, the
If you
401k portion is.
Right. If you left city service, you could take that with you.
Yes. One area where we are different from other public funds is the amount that our non-uniform employees contribute is generally lower than in other places. So we're proposing to increase that. And the way we would do it would be it would increase their cost from about 2% to about 3% of pay.
Talk about healthcare. What is our proposal on that, and where do things stand on that issue?
So we are, at this point, our proposal is to make 2 lump sum payments to help the health of DC 33's healthcare fund.
Yeah, the union manages its own healthcare fund.
Manages its own healthcare fund. We give them an amount per member per month.
975.76.
Yes. And we're not proposing to change that. We are proposing to make 2 lump sum payments. $15 million within 30 days of the agreement taking effect, and then $10 million January 1st, 2014. So for a total of $25 million. Now, DC 33 recently introduced $50 per pay healthcare contributions for their members, in part to shore up the health of their fund. We're hoping that with this $25 million, that would increase health of their fund, and they might be able to use it to mitigate that payment that they're requiring.
So they potentially could use those dollars to cut the cost of the recent increase that their union members paid the additional $50 per pay.
Yes, they could.
We value our employees. It's how we provide service to the public.
Correct.
And
And
again,
they're
the
the ones
furloughs
out
would
there
only be
morning, noon,
used-
and night. Rain, snow, sleet, hail, 900 degrees outside, 5 degrees outside. I mean, these are, our valued public employees, and, we're trying to, bring some security and dependability through a multi-year contract. But we do need these kinds of reforms so that we can better manage and not be as disruptive, again, with a layoff as the only other option. So, okay.
The one thing that I know that has come up a lot is the overtime, Mayor,
Yeah.
and I know that that's been a source of some going back and forth.
Right. But what is the proposal?
Well, we would like to eliminate double time, and there would be no paid leave hours except vacation and training leave that would count towards your hours of working for overtime purposes. So in other words, unless it's vacation or training leave, if it's sick time, that's not counted towards your 40-hour work week. But then overtime would then kick in
So
after that.
give me an example of, how does it work now, and how would you want it to work going forward?
And one other point, you'd have to work at least 40 hours to get overtime. Right now, you don't.
Can I lay a basis here? So most employees in the country who earn overtime pursuant to the Fair Labor Standards Act. That's a federal law that requires overtime to be paid after 40 hours of work. We go beyond the Fair Labor Standards Act. So right now, for DC 33 members, we pay overtime after 8 hours. We pay, and that's at time and a half. We pay time and a half on the 6th day. So you work a 5-day week. That first day off, if you work, you get time and a half. We pay you double time if you work the 2nd day. So a person who works Monday to Friday, works Sunday, they get double time for that. What we're proposing is to bring our overtime rules closer to what the federal law requires. And that is, you would only get overtime at time and a half if you work 40 hours a week. But, unlike the federal law, we will credit as working hours any time spent on vacation or any time spent in training. So you don't have to actually work the full 40 hours. If you took a vacation day, that would be credited for it. And you would still earn your time and a half once you pass the 40 hours.
So Al, can I just want to back up. So in your example, let's say somebody works one day and they work 10 hours. So they would get 2 of those hours would be overtime, even if perhaps the next day they only worked 6 hours and the rest of the week added up to less than 40
So
hours?
if they had been sick the day before, or worked 10 hours, and didn't work the rest of the week, they would get overtime for that day.
Okay. Well,
So what we're proposing is that they work the 10 hours on Monday, and then the rest of the week, they work 8 hours, or they work some combination of vacation and working hours that contributed to the other 32 hours. Then that 2 extra hours that they worked on Monday would be compensated at time and a half. But if they worked 10 hours on Monday and they called out sick on Tuesday, worked Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, that extra 2 hours they worked on Monday would be compensated at straight time.
Under the new.
under our proposal.
Right.
So that's how it would change. But again, it's still more generous than federal law requires.
Right. And on the, we're all familiar with how the schedule gets changed if there is a Monday holiday with regard to picking up sanitation and recycling. If you have a Monday holiday, that work gets done on Tuesday, Tuesday on Wednesday, Wednesday on Thursday, and of course Friday on Saturday. The moment you work on Saturday, you automatically get overtime, even though you are off on Monday.
Currently.
Right?
Under our new proposal, you would get
Straight time.
40, you would get straight time for Saturday.
Straight
You would
time
get
on Saturday.
40 hours for the week plus 8 hours at straight time.
About salary increases. So how does all this, I mean, we're talking about pay increases, we're talking about steps and longevity, we're talking about additional contributions, current employees for health and welfare, health care, and additional pension contributions. So we have some examples of, I'm going to take it that these are real individuals.
Yes.
These are real public employees with no names attached, but
The question that I think that we hear more than anything else is that do our proposals actually add value, positive value to the average employee? And that's a general question, but Rebecca, you looked at this, and Rob, the proposals that we have on the table, is it a net positive to the average employee in the city?
Yes, definitely. For the average employee in the city, it is a strong and positive, definitely.
Let's beat back. I mean, that's the answer. Sometimes the answer is just the easiest answer.
Right.
You're putting money on the table. It is reflected in our 5-year plan. I take it. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The budget
That's right.
that we just put forward, is it in there?
It is.
So we were already accounting for this being in the budget, and the only thing that's keeping this from going forward at this point is just to get an answer other than no from the other side of the table. Is that fair?
Yes. It's a fair assessment.
So I think, Mayor, the idea is that we wanted to make sure you, and also the general public, understood what was happening, and obviously, at your direction, this is the team that you put together.
Right.
The only two people that are not here, Shelley Smith is the city solicitor, is not here today, and Shannon Farmer, who is our counsel, is not here. At the next timely topic, I'm sure that they will be here.
Sure.
But we wanted, if you have any other questions, we can plan to put together.
well, I mean, this is, I know that it is obviously very, very difficult and a challenge to communicate some of these very complicated issues and ideas, but I think the way you all have laid it out, I mean, it really does come down to we need new employees to go into a different plan that is less costly to the city. Current employees, we do need them to pay a little more into the pension fund to help shore up and help stabilize a fund that we're all in. That a different kind of calculation just based on work needs to be in place in terms of overtime. We're not against overtime, but we want to make sure that, much like the federal standard, that overtime is calculated after you've actually worked 40 hours in the course of a week, and I think that is just very, very straightforward. And that we need the additional flexibility of managing our employees and employee costs by utilizing strategically and only under economic duress a furlough, which is not a break in service, does not affect your health care, does not affect your status in the city government, but can save us money, but it also saves your job, as opposed to only being able to lay people off. So those are the main issues. That's what we're trying to get significant change in that regard, and to raises on the table, 2.5% 30 days after any contract signed, and a 2% in January 2014, as well as a lump sum, two lump sum payments, $15 million this year and $10 million next year, a total of $25 million spread over 2 years to the Health and Welfare Fund at District Council 33. Those are really the main critical issues. We want to have a contract. I want to have a contract. Want it to be fair to our employees, but also fair to the taxpayers who pay the tab. I'm hopeful that we can bring some resolution to this as quickly as possible. But it's clear from the last numbers that you laid out, when you put all the different components together, it is still a net positive for our employees, and I'm hopeful that soon they'll be able to see the benefits of their work and have it reflected, quite honestly, in their paycheck as an increase. So we'll go from there. And Jackie?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This concludes our special PhillyStat session. Thank you all for coming.